The forest was eerily silent, save for the soft rustling of leaves overhead and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. The human man, whose name was Elias, trudged through the dense undergrowth with his rifle slung over one shoulder. He had come here to hunt game, boar or deer perhaps, but what he found instead made him freeze mid-step. A small figure stood in the clearing ahead, its skin shimmering faintly like moonlight on water. It wasn't human. Elias blinked, unsure if exhaustion or hunger had conjured some trick of the light. But no, the creature before him was real, short, no taller than a child, with wide eyes that glowed faintly yellow against the dimness of the woods. Its limbs were long and slender, ending in delicate fingers tipped with tiny claws. Around its neck hung an intricate pendant, pulsating faintly as though alive. Human. The voice startled Elias more than the sight of the alien itself. It was high-pitched yet melodic, filled with desperation. "Help my mom. My alien mother is trapped in a savage hunting snare." Before Elias could respond, the little being darted forward, grabbing at his sleeve with surprising strength. Its grip felt oddly cool, almost soothing despite the urgency radiating from it. Elias stumbled backward, instinctively raising his free hand to ward off whatever this thing might be planning. Yet, looking into those luminous eyes, all he saw was fear, and something else deeper, rawer. Desperation. What are you?" Elias finally managed, his voice hoarse from disuse and surprise. "No time," the creature cried, tugging harder now. "She's hurt. She'll die if we don't hurry." His mind raced. This wasn't part of any plan he'd ever imagined when venturing into these woods. Aliens? Hunting snares? None of it made sense. And yet, there was something about the way the creature pleaded, something undeniably genuine. "Where is she?" Elias asked cautiously, lowering his rifle but keeping it close just in case. "This way," the alien said, already bounding toward the thicker part of the forest. "Follow me." Elias hesitated only briefly before adjusting his pack and following. The ground sloped downward sharply, forcing him to watch his footing carefully. Vines tangled around tree roots and moss-covered rocks slickened the path further. Despite their size difference, the alien moved with remarkable agility, weaving between obstacles without slowing down. Elias struggled to keep up, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool shade provided by the towering trees above. As they pressed deeper into the woods, the air grew heavier, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Strange noises began to echo around them, low growls, distant screeches, sounds that didn't belong to any animal Elias recognized. His heart pounded faster with each step, not just from exertion but from unease. Something about this place felt wrong, unnatural. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the alien skidded to a halt near a massive fallen log covered in moss and lichen. Beyond it lay a jagged ravine, its edges crumbling where soil met stone. At first glance, nothing appeared out of the ordinary. Then Elias saw her. Half hidden beneath the log, entangled in thick steel wires designed to ensnare large prey, lay another alien. This one was clearly older, her features softer, her glow fainter. Her body twitched weakly as she tried, and failed, to pull herself free. Blood seeped from cuts where the wires dug into her flesh, staining the pale green hue of her skin darker still. Her breathing came in shallow gasps, ragged and uneven. She fell while trying to escape hunters, the smaller alien explained quickly, rushing to kneel beside her. "I couldn't get her loose alone." Elias approached cautiously, taking in every detail. The trap was crude yet effective, a spring-loaded mechanism anchored deep into the ground, connected to the wires via sturdy chains. Whoever set it knew how to catch big game, or anything unlucky enough to stumble across it. He knelt beside the injured alien, noting the way her glowing pendant flickered erratically, matching the rhythm of her labored breaths. Up close, he realized her resemblance to the child was unmistakable. They shared the same elongated limbs, the same luminescent quality to their skin, though hers seemed dulled by pain and fatigue. "How did you end up here?" Elias asked softly, not entirely sure why he cared but unable to stop himself from asking anyway. "We mean no harm," the child replied, tears glistening in its glowing eyes. "We came seeking refuge. Earth is safe, or so we thought." "Safe?" Elias wanted to laugh bitterly at the irony. These woods teemed with danger, both natural and man-made. Hunters roamed freely during season, setting traps like this one indiscriminately. Refugees from space wouldn't stand a chance unless they adapted quickly, or got lucky. "I'll help," Elias said firmly, shaking off his doubts. "But I need your cooperation. Understand?" Both aliens nodded eagerly, though the mother's movements were sluggish. Satisfied, Elias reached for his knife, examining the trap closely. He'd dealt with similar contraptions before. Dismantling them required patience and precision. One wrong move, and the whole mechanism could tighten further, causing even more damage. The child hovered anxiously nearby, whispering words in a language Elias couldn't understand. They sounded soothing, rhythmic, almost like a prayer. Whatever they meant, they seemed to calm the mother somewhat, her trembling easing slightly. Working methodically, Elias cut away sections of the wire, careful not to jostle the alien too much. Each snip brought a sharp intake of breath from her, followed by soft murmurs of gratitude. Her blood stained his gloves, sticky and warm, reminding him of countless other wounds he'd tended to in his lifetime. Somehow, though, this felt different. More personal. When the last strand gave way, the mother collapsed onto the ground with a weak groan. The child rushed to her side immediately, cradling her head gently. Elias stepped back, wiping his hands on his pants and surveying the scene. "You can't stay here," he warned. "There are others who won't hesitate to kill you if they find you." The child looked up at him, determination shining in its luminous gaze. "We have nowhere else to go. Please, help us." Elias sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. What had started as a simple hunting trip had turned into something far beyond his comprehension. Helping them would mean risking everything, not just his safety but possibly his freedom. Sheltering extraterrestrial beings wasn't exactly legal after all. But as he stared at the wounded mother and her desperate child, he couldn't bring himself to walk away. "Not yet." "All right," he muttered reluctantly. "Let's get moving before someone comes looking for their trap." With great effort, Elias helped lift the mother onto his back, her weight surprisingly light considering her size. The child scampered ahead, leading the way back toward Elias's cabin. Every step felt heavier than the last, not because of the burden on his shoulders but because of the enormity of what he'd just agreed to do. They hadn't gone far when the sound of footsteps reached their ears, human ones this time. Heavy boots crunching through dry leaves, accompanied by low voices exchanging gruff remarks. Panic surged through Elias, tightening his chest. He motionless, holding his breath, hoping beyond hope that whoever approached wouldn't notice them. But luck wasn't on their side today. A shout rang out, followed by the unmistakable click of a rifle being cocked. "There. Over there," someone yelled, pointing directly at them. Elias cursed under his breath, shifting the alien mother higher on his back. "Run!" he hissed at the child, who obeyed instantly, darting off into the shadows. Bullets whizzed past as Elias broke into a sprint, dodging trees and leaping over roots. Behind him, angry shouts echoed, growing louder as their pursuers closed in. He could feel the mother's body trembling against his, her breathing growing shallower with each passing second. Just ahead, the child reappeared briefly, waving frantically toward a narrow crevice between two boulders. Without hesitation, Elias veered toward it, squeezing through the tight opening with difficulty. Inside, the space widened into a small cavern, barely visible from outside thanks to the dense foliage surrounding it. "Stay quiet," Elias whispered urgently, lowering the mother gently to the ground. The child huddled beside her, clutching her hand tightly. Heavy footfalls passed by mere inches away, accompanied by frustrated curses. For several agonizing minutes, they waited in silence, listening as the hunters searched fruitlessly before finally giving up and moving on. Only then did Elias allow himself to exhale fully, collapsing against the cold stone wall. His heart hammered wildly in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Beside him, the alien mother stirred weakly, her eyes fluttering open. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You saved us." Elias shook his head, unable to form words. He'd acted on instinct, driven by compassion rather than logic. Now, staring at the two fragile beings relying on him for survival, he wondered if he'd made the right choice, or if he'd just sealed all their fates. Outside, twilight descended rapidly, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Elias emerged cautiously from the cavern, scanning the area for signs of pursuit. Satisfied that the coast was clear, he gathered dry wood and kindled a small fire within the shelter of the rocks, its warmth offering some comfort against the encroaching chill. The alien mother slept fitfully, her injuries requiring rest more than anything else. Her child sat vigil beside her, occasionally brushing strands of silvery hair from her face with tender care. Watching them, Elias felt a pang of something unfamiliar stir within him, empathy mingled with protectiveness. These weren't invaders or threats, they were survivors just like him. Hours passed uneventfully until the child suddenly stiffened, tilting its head as though listening intently. Moments later, a low rumble reverberated through the ground, subtle yet undeniable. Elias frowned, rising to investigate. "What is it?" he asked quietly, turning to the child. "They're coming," the alien replied gravely, standing as well. "More humans." Fear prickled along Elias's spine. How had they tracked them here? Had they left behind clues inadvertently? Or worse, was the trap rigged with some sort of beacon? "Stay here," he instructed firmly, gripping his rifle tightly. "No matter what happens, don't leave this spot." The child nodded solemnly, retreating to crouch protectively over its sleeping mother. With a final glance backward, Elias slipped out into the night, moving silently among the trees. He positioned himself strategically behind a cluster of bushes overlooking the main trail, waiting. Soon enough, figures materialized from the darkness. 3 men armed with rifles and flashlights. Their faces were grim, expressions hardened by years spent surviving in harsh conditions. They moved with practiced efficiency, sweeping the area systematically. One of them paused near the entrance to the cavern, sniffing the air suspiciously. "Smell that?" he muttered to his companions. "Smoke." Elias's stomach dropped. The fire. Of course. He'd been careless. The leader gestured for his team to fan out, approaching the crevice cautiously. Heart pounding, Elias tightened his grip on his weapon. He couldn't let them find the aliens, not tonight, not ever. Taking aim, he fired a warning shot into the air, startling the group. "Get out of here," he shouted, stepping into view. "This isn't your territory." The hunters froze momentarily, caught off guard by his sudden appearance. Then, recovering quickly, they raised their weapons, leveling them at him. "Stand down, stranger," the leader growled. "We ain't leaving till we get what we came for." "And what exactly is that?" Elias demanded, feigning bravado despite the knot of dread twisting inside him. "A bounty worth more than you can imagine." The man smirked darkly. "Those freaks hiding in there, they ain't meant to be walking around free." Freaks. The word hit Elias like a punch to the gut. He'd heard similar sentiments directed at outsiders before, people deemed different or dangerous simply because they didn't conform. It sickened him. "Well, you're not getting them," Elias snapped, firing another round to emphasize his point. "Not tonight." The standoff stretched taut, neither side willing to back down. Then, unexpectedly, the leader signaled for his men to retreat slightly, creating distance. Confusion flickered across Elias's face, until he noticed movement flanking his position. 2 additional hunters had circled around unnoticed, positioning themselves to ambush him. Trap. Outnumbered. Outgunned. For a moment, despair threatened to overwhelm him. But then he remembered the child's plea, the mother's gratitude, the trust they'd placed in him. He couldn't give up, not now. With a roar of defiance, Elias charged forward, firing blindly to create chaos. Bullets tore through the air around him, narrowly missing as he dove for cover behind a fallen tree. Pain exploded in his side where one grazed his ribs, but he ignored it, focusing solely on survival. In the ensuing melee, shouts and gunfire echoed through the forest, scattering wildlife and shattering the fragile peace of the night. Somewhere amidst the chaos, Elias spotted an opening, a gap between 2 hunters momentarily distracted by the commotion. Seizing the opportunity, he bolted toward it, praying he could reach the cavern in time. Behind him, angry cries pursued, urging him to stop. But Elias ran faster than he ever had in his life, fueled by desperation and resolve. When he finally burst back into the shelter of the rocks, panting and bleeding, relief washed over him at the sight of the child and mother still safe. "We need to move," he gasped, helping the mother to her feet once more. "Now." Together, they fled deeper into the wilderness, leaving behind the hunters and their cruel intentions. Yet even as they put distance between themselves and danger, Elias knew this reprieve wouldn't last forever. Sooner or later, they'd be found again. And next time, luck might not be on their side. Dawn broke reluctantly over the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink that barely penetrated the thick canopy above. Exhaustion clung to Elias like a second skin, each step heavier than the last. The wound on his side throbbed incessantly, a reminder of the night's chaos. Beside him, the alien mother leaned heavily on his shoulder, her strength ebbing with every passing moment. Her child trotted ahead, scouting for hazards while casting frequent worried glances backward. They needed shelter, a proper one this time, not just a temporary hiding spot. Elias's cabin was out of the question. It was too exposed, too easy to find. No, they required somewhere secluded, somewhere hidden. As they trudged onward, Memories surfaced unbidden of an old abandoned mine he'd once stumbled upon during a particularly unsuccessful hunting expedition. It had been boarded up, forgotten by most, but perhaps it could serve as sanctuary now. The terrain grew rougher, steep inclines giving way to rocky outcrops and treacherous ledges. Progress slowed to a crawl, each decision weighed carefully against the risk of discovery. Hunger gnawed at Elias's stomach, though he pushed thoughts of food aside. Survival took precedence over sustenance. After what felt like hours, the child halted abruptly, pointing excitedly toward a jagged cliff face partially concealed by cascading vines. Beneath the foliage, a dark opening yawned invitingly, an entrance to the mines. Relief flooded through Elias, tempered only by caution. He scanned the surroundings meticulously, ensuring no unwelcome eyes watched from afar. Satisfied, he ushered the aliens inside, the cool interior offering immediate respite from the oppressive heat outside. The air smelled musty, tinged with traces of rust and decay. Shafts of light filtered through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating piles of discarded equipment and wooden beams sagging under decades of neglect. It wasn't ideal, but it would suffice for now. Elias set about securing the space, using debris to block the entrance partially while leaving enough room for ventilation. Once satisfied, he turned his attention to the mother, whose condition worsened visibly. Her glow had dimmed considerably, her breathing shallow and erratic. The child hovered anxiously nearby, whispering reassurances in its melodic tongue. "I need to clean her wounds," Elias said aloud, rummaging through his pack for supplies. "Do you understand?" The child nodded vigorously, stepping aside to allow access. Working gently, Elias removed the makeshift bandages he'd applied earlier, revealing angry red gashes crisscrossing her torso. Infection had begun to set in, evident in the swelling and discoloration around the edges. He grimaced, knowing antibiotics were crucial if she stood any chance of recovery. "I'll need medicine," he muttered, addressing no one in particular. "And food. Both of which are miles away." A soft touch on his arm startled him. The child held out its pendant, pressing it insistently into his palm. The object pulsed warmly, resonating with a faint hum that vibrated through his fingers. "For trade," the child explained earnestly. "It holds value. Among our kind." Elias stared at the pendant, torn between gratitude and guilt. Accepting it felt wrong somehow, like exploiting their vulnerability. Yet refusing might doom them all. "All right," he conceded finally, pocketing the pendant reluctantly. "But only because we have no other choice." Resting briefly to gather his wits, Elias formulated a plan. He would return to his cabin under cover of darkness, retrieve medical supplies, and perhaps scavenge whatever provisions remained untouched. Speed was essential. Staying away too long risked losing the trust he'd painstakingly earned. As twilight descended, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Elias prepared to depart. He checked the barricade one last time, ensuring it remained secure, then turned to the child. "I'll be back soon," he promised solemnly. "Keep her safe until then." The child nodded, determination blazing in its luminous eyes. "We will wait." With that, Elias slipped into the gathering dusk, retracing his steps carefully. The journey back proved arduous, each snapped twig and rustling leaf magnified tenfold in his heightened state of alertness. Hunters lurked everywhere, their presence palpable even when unseen. Every shadow harbored potential danger, every sound a possible threat. Reaching the cabin without incident felt miraculous. Elias wasted no time raiding shelves and drawers for anything useful. Bandages, antiseptics, painkillers, all went into a hastily assembled bag. Food followed suit, canned goods and dried meats prioritized for longevity. Lastly, he grabbed a flashlight and spare batteries, knowing visibility would prove critical in the mines. Emerging from the cabin, Elias froze. Footprints marred the dirt outside, fresh and unmistakable. Someone had been here recently. Panic surged anew, urging him to flee immediately. But curiosity rooted him to the spot, compelling him to investigate further. Following the tracks led him to a disturbing discovery, a note pinned to the door with a knife. Written in bold letters, the message read, "We know you're hiding them. Bring them to us or we'll come for you." Cold fury coursed through Elias, tempered by grim resolve. These men wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted, or until he stopped them permanently. Either outcome promised violence, a prospect he dreaded yet accepted as inevitable. Gathering his belongings, Elias melted back into the night, moving swiftly and silently. Time was running out, not just for the aliens but for himself as well. Returning to the mines became imperative, not just for supplies but for strategy. Together they needed to formulate a plan, one that ensured survival rather than submission. Upon reaching the mines, Elias found the child pacing nervously near the entrance, its glow dimmer than usual. Relief washed over its features when it spotted him, rushing forward to relieve him of his burden. "She's worse," it admitted quietly, leading him deeper into the cavern. "Her fever rises." Sure enough, the mother lay prostrate on a makeshift bed of blankets, her body racked with tremors. Sweat beaded on her brow, mixing with the faint luminescence of her skin. Her eyes fluttered open weakly as Elias approached, recognition sparking briefly before fading again. Working quickly, Elias administered the strongest dose of antibiotics he dared, cleaning and rebandaging her wounds with meticulous care. The child assisted dutifully, fetching water and holding her hand throughout the process. When finished, Elias sank wearily onto the ground beside them, exhaustion threatening to claim him completely. Yet sleep eluded him, chased away by relentless thoughts of hunters and traps. Tomorrow brought new challenges, ones requiring solutions beyond mere evasion. They needed allies, resources, something to tip the scales in their favor. But whom could they trust? Who else would believe, or care, about two stranded aliens fighting for survival? An idea began forming, tentative yet promising. There existed rumors of others like himself. Outcasts, drifters, individuals disillusioned with society's rigid structures. Some claimed these renegades formed loose networks, operating outside conventional laws. If such groups truly existed, perhaps they could offer assistance, or at least guidance. Sharing his thoughts with the child, Elias received an unexpected response. The alien nodded thoughtfully, retrieving its pendant once more. Activating it produced a soft chime, followed by a holographic projection hovering inches above its surface. Images flickered rapidly, maps, symbols, patterns incomprehensible to Elias but evidently meaningful to the child. "Our people left markers," it explained eagerly. "Signals guiding those lost to safety. Perhaps your kind does too." Hope stirred within Elias, fragile yet insistent. Following these signals might lead them to sanctuary, or at least information vital to their cause. Decision made, he resolved to embark on this quest at first light, trusting fate to guide their steps. For now, though, rest beckoned irresistibly. Wrapping himself in a thin blanket, Elias succumbed to fatigue, lulled by the rhythmic breathing of the aliens beside him. Dreams claimed him swiftly, fragmented visions of starlit skies and unknown worlds dancing tantalizingly just beyond reach. Morning arrived too soon, gray light filtering weakly through cracks in the mine's ceiling. Elias woke stiff and sore, every muscle protesting movement. Beside him, the alien mother remained unconscious, her condition unchanged despite his efforts. The child stirred awake, blinking sleepily before focusing on him with renewed determination. "We should leave," it urged softly, nudging him gently. "Before they find us." Eyes narrowing, Elias nodded agreement. Staying put invited disaster, especially given the hunter's ominous warning. Gathering their meager supplies, they prepared to venture forth once more, guided by the child's mysterious pendant. Stepping outside revealed a landscape transformed overnight. Rain had swept through during the early hours, saturating the ground and washing away telltale signs of their passage. While beneficial in masking tracks, the mud posed new challenges, sucking at boots and making progress laborious. Progress slowed significantly, each step deliberate and calculated. The pendant chimed periodically, directing their path with uncanny accuracy. Following its guidance led them away from familiar trails, deeper into uncharted territory. Dense thickets gave way to open clearings dotted with wildflowers, vibrant splashes of color amidst the drabness. Birds chirped cheerfully overhead, oblivious to the tension simmering below. Despite the beauty surrounding them, Elias remained vigilant, senses attuned to potential threats. Twice they encountered evidence of human activity, discarded cigarette butts, empty snack wrappers, each discovery prompting hurried detours. Paranoia gripped him tighter with each passing hour, convinced eyes watched from afar, waiting patiently for mistakes. By midday, hunger gnawed fiercely, prompting a brief halt to consume rations sparingly. Sharing food created a semblance of normalcy, albeit fleeting. Conversation flowed haltingly, limited by language barriers yet enriched by gestures and expressions conveying mutual understanding. Trust solidified gradually, forged in adversity and necessity. Resuming their journey, the pendant chimed insistently, indicating proximity to whatever destination awaited. Excitement bubbled beneath Elias's weariness, anticipation mingling with apprehension. Would they find allies? Refuge? Or merely another dead end? As afternoon waned, the forest thinned unexpectedly, revealing a vast expanse of rolling hills stretching endlessly toward the horizon. Nestled within this panorama stood a structure, crude yet functional, constructed from salvaged materials and camouflaged expertly against detection. Smoke curled lazily from a chimney, hinting at habitation. Approaching cautiously, Elias noted defensive measures subtly integrated into the design. Tripwires, concealed pits, improvised alarms designed to deter intruders. Whoever resided here valued privacy highly, suggesting alignment with his own disposition. A figure emerged from the dwelling, tall and broad-shouldered, clad in patched clothing and bearing a weathered rifle. Recognition dawned belatedly. This was Caleb, a recluse rumored to harbor sympathies for societal rejects. Rumors painted him variously as hero or lunatic, depending on perspective. "Hold there," Caleb called sharply, raising his weapon warily. "State your business." Elias raised empty hands placatingly, stepping forward deliberately. "Seeking aid," he replied evenly. "For friends?" Suspicion lingered in Caleb's gaze, scrutiny intense yet calculating. Finally he lowered his rifle fractionally, nodding curtly. "Explain inside." Leading the way, Caleb ushered them into the relative safety of his home, bolting the door securely behind them. Inside, clutter dominated, tools scattered haphazardly, shelves overflowing with books and gadgets, remnants of meals strewn across surfaces. Despite disorder, warmth permeated the space, underscored by a crackling fire in the hearth. Seated awkwardly on mismatched furniture, Elias recounted recent events succinctly, omitting unnecessary details while emphasizing urgency. Throughout, Caleb listened intently, expression unreadable save for occasional flickers of interest. When finished, silence reigned momentarily, broken only by the popping of embers. Finally, Caleb leaned forward, steepling his fingers thoughtfully. "You've bitten off more than you can chew," he observed dryly. "Hunters won't quit easily. Bounty's too lucrative." Awareness prickled along Elias's spine. "Then help us disappear," he implored earnestly. "Please." Caleb studied him appraisingly, weighing options silently. At length, he sighed heavily, rubbing temples marked by stress lines. "All right. But understand, this changes everything. You're committed now. No turning back." Relief flooded Elias, profound and overwhelming. Nodding fervently, he extended a hand gratefully. "Understood. Thank you." Shaking hands sealed the pact, binding them irrevocably to a shared destiny fraught with peril yet brimming with possibility. Outside, twilight deepened, stars beginning their nightly ascent. Within, plans unfolded rapidly, strategies devised collaboratively to ensure survival against mounting odds. Through it all, the alien mother slept fitfully, unaware of machinations swirling around her. Her child watched attentively, absorbing nuances of human interaction with quiet fascination. Together they embodied resilience incarnate, defying circumstance through sheer force of will. And Elias? He embraced uncertainty willingly, trading solitude for solidarity, anonymity for alliance. Whatever lay ahead, he faced unflinchingly, bolstered by newfound purpose and kinship forged in fire. Night enveloped the countryside completely, transforming the world into a tapestry of shadows and whispers. Within Caleb's refuge, preparations continued apace, punctuated by bursts of laughter and camaraderie born of shared adversity. Supplies were inventoried meticulously, weapons cleaned and oiled, escape routes mapped redundantly to account for contingencies. Amidst bustling activity, the alien mother stirred unexpectedly, consciousness returning sluggishly. Her child hastened to her side, emitting soft croons reminiscent of lullabies. Awakening proved disorienting initially, confusion clouding her luminous eyes before clarity gradually asserted itself. Recognition sparked, followed swiftly by gratitude directed squarely at Elias. Words tumbled forth in their melodic tongue, heartfelt and sincere. Though unintelligible, intent resonated profoundly, bridging linguistic divides effortlessly. Smiling reassuringly, Elias patted her hand gently, conveying reassurance nonverbally. Meanwhile, Caleb observed interactions keenly, curiosity piqued by dynamics unfolding organically. Alien physiology fascinated him, prompting queries scientific and speculative alike. Patience tempered enthusiasm, however, recognizing sensitivity required when dealing with injured parties. Discussion segued naturally toward tactics, brainstorming sessions evolving dynamically as ideas germinated and flourished. Caleb proposed utilizing local geography advantageously, leveraging natural barriers to funnel pursuers predictably. Ambush points identified strategically, booby traps laid cunningly to maximize effectiveness. Elias contributed insights garnered from first-hand encounters, detailing hunter methodologies and tendencies. Patterns emerged discernibly, vulnerabilities exposed ripe for exploitation. Collaboration fostered synergy, enhancing collective capabilities exponentially. Throughout deliberations, practicalities demanded attention concurrently. Meals prepared communally, flavors melding harmoniously despite disparate origins. Stories exchanged casually, bonds strengthening imperceptibly through shared experiences recounted animatedly. Sleep claimed participants intermittently, shifts rotated seamlessly to maintain constant vigilance. Rest proved elusive nonetheless, minds racing incessantly with scenarios plausible and improbable alike. Adrenaline coursed perpetually, fueling endeavors ceaselessly. Dawn heralded transition, signaling departure imminent. Final checks conducted rigorously, gear distributed equitably according to necessity. Farewells exchanged sincerely, promises articulated firmly regarding reunions anticipated eagerly. Stepping outdoors, crisp air invigorated senses dulled by confinement. Horizon blushed delicately, hues transitioning fluidly from indigo to gold. Birdsong heralded renewal optimistically, melodies lilting joyfully amidst burgeoning daylight. Journey resumed determinately, resolve emboldened by reinforcements tangible and intangible. Path carved resolutely through wilderness untamed, confidence bolstered by unity forged indomitably. Challenges loomed inevitably, yet spirit soared indefatigably, buoyed by conviction unwavering. Together they marched forward inexorably, destinies intertwined irrevocably. Whatever trials awaited, they confronted collectively, fortified by fellowship resilient and resolve steadfast. Elias's life before encountering the aliens was one of solitude and hardship. A former hunter turned recluse, he had retreated to the wilderness after losing faith in humanity's capacity for kindness. His own family had been torn apart by tragedy, his younger sister died in an accident caused by negligence, and his parents succumbed to grief shortly after. Alone and bitter, Elias found solace in the forest, living off the land and avoiding contact with others. The alien mother and child, however, came from a distant world ravaged by war. Their species, peaceful by nature, had fled their home planet when it became uninhabitable due to conflict between warring factions. They sought refuge on Earth, believing it to be safe and untouched by interstellar strife. But upon arrival, they discovered that not all humans were welcoming. Some saw them as threats, or worse as trophies or commodities to exploit. Their paths crossed when the alien mother accidentally triggered a hunter's snare while trying to evade detection. Her child, desperate to save her, stumbled upon Elias during his solitary trek through the woods. That moment of chance set everything in motion. Elias's decision to help them despite the risks, their harrowing escape from hunters and ultimately their alliance with Caleb. With Caleb's guidance, the group devised a plan to draw the hunters into a trap deep within the wilderness. Using Caleb's knowledge of the terrain and improvised defenses, they prepared an ambush at a narrow gorge surrounded by steep cliffs. The idea was simple yet effective. Lure the hunters into the gorge, collapse the entrance behind them and force them to retreat, or face capture. As preparations neared completion, the alien mother began to regain some strength, thanks to Caleb's rudimentary medical care and the antibiotics Elias had retrieved. Though still weak, she managed to sit up briefly, her glowing pendant flickering back to life. She spoke softly to her child in their melodic language, words filled with gratitude and determination. "You've given us hope," she said to Elias, her voice trembling but sincere. "We will never forget your courage." Her child clung to her side, its wide eyes reflecting both fear and resolve. It handed Elias a small fragment of its pendant, a token of trust and friendship. "Take this," it urged. "It will guide you if we must part ways." Elias accepted the gift reluctantly, knowing the bond they'd formed transcended mere survival. These beings weren't just refugees. They were now part of his journey, forever changing the way he viewed himself and the universe around him. On the chosen night, the group positioned themselves strategically around the gorge. Caleb rigged explosives along the cliff edges, ready to trigger a landslide at the right moment. Elias took position near the entrance, rifle in hand, prepared to cover their retreat if necessary. The alien mother and child waited further back, hidden among rocks and underbrush, ready to flee at a moment's notice. The hunters arrived sooner than expected, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like predatory eyes. They moved cautiously, clearly aware of the dangers posed by unfamiliar territory. As they entered the gorge, Caleb gave the signal. A deafening roar echoed through the valley as the cliffs collapsed, sealing off the hunters' escape route. Chaos erupted below as shouts and curses filled the air. Elias fired warning shots into the sky, ensuring no one dared pursue them any further. Within minutes, the hunters scattered, abandoning their quest in disarray. With the immediate threat neutralized, the group regrouped at Caleb's shelter. Exhausted but victorious, they shared a quiet meal together, celebrating their hard-won freedom. The alien mother, though still recovering, offered a heartfelt blessing in her native tongue, her pendant glowing brightly once more. "We can't stay here forever," Caleb reminded them gently. "But there are places beyond these woods where people won't ask questions. Communities hidden from prying eyes." Elias nodded, understanding what needed to be done next. With Caleb's help, they would escort the aliens to one such sanctuary, a remote settlement rumored to harbor other displaced beings. It wouldn't be easy, but it was their best chance at a new beginning. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Elias stood beside the alien mother and child, watching as the first rays of sunlight illuminated the path ahead. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose, not just for himself but for something greater. "Let's go," he said finally, offering a reassuring smile. "Your journey isn't over yet." Together, they stepped forward into the unknown, leaving behind the shadows of fear and uncertainty. And though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, they faced them united, bound by trust, compassion, and the unyielding hope of finding a place where they could truly belong.